morning, gorgeous rebels. It's Saturday, May 31st, and the circus is still in town. Today, we've got Elon Musk taking his ketamine and oversized key and moonwalking out of the White House, Biden threatening to throw hands over a book deal, and Trump appointing a babyface podcaster to guard democracy like it's a YouTube comment section. But don't worry, we're not ending there, because while the bros bluster, the women are still out here feeding the world one fruit tree at a time. This is your SassCast, where the facts wear stilettos, the commentary bites, and the news never shows up underdressed. Let's dive in. Elon Musk is officially out as head of the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, because this administration runs on memes and vibes. In a farewell ceremony that looked like a deleted scene from the Hunger Games, President Golden Dawn handed Musk a literal oversized key to the White House and declared his job well done. Musk, of course, wore Doge merch because why be subtle when you can cosplay your own conspiracy? The timing? Convenient. Musk's departure came right after a New York Times expose alleged he'd been partaking in ketamine and ecstasy while moonlighting as a government advisor. Musk called it medical. The black eye he showed up with, roughhousing with my 5-year-old. And somewhere, a PR team is stress vomiting into a Tesla mug. Critics question not just the drug use, but whether Doge ever did anything meaningful at all, outside of launching some GIFs and ego inflation. Meanwhile, a lawsuit is moving forward, questioning the entire legal basis of Musk's role. So while he's no longer officially in office, Golden Dawn made it clear Elon will still be texting from the sidelines, because nothing says efficient government like unlicensed input from the ketamine corner. And speaking of unpredictable men in power, let's talk about Joe Biden, a defiant cancer survivor with a foul mouth and a book beef. President Biden made headlines this week by responding to Original Sin, a behind-the-scenes tell-all, the only way a Philly-born elder statesman knows how, with fists metaphorically raised. "I could beat the hell out of both of them," he said of the authors. America paused, blinked, and collectively whispered, "Sir, what?" The left painted it as classic Biden, a scrappy, passionate rebuttal against yet another DC smear attempt. Add a soundtrack and a sepia filter, and it's a Netflix biopic. The right spun it into a full-on mental fitness expose, tossing around terms like mentally incompetent and erratic, and implying the president's fists are writing checks his neurons can't cash. The center, as usual, quietly passed the mic to Biden's press secretary and called it a day. But here's the real divide. Is this fireproof resilience, or is it the verbal equivalent of shaking your cane at a cloud? All outlets did agree on one thing. His cancer prognosis looks optimistic, and whether you love him or loathe him, the man's not going down without a fight. Literally. And if you thought Biden's Brawl was wild, wait until you meet the guy Golden Dawn just nominated to protect federal whistleblowers. Spoiler alert, he thinks Andrew Tate is misunderstood. Enter Paul Ingracia, the 30-year-old right-wing podcaster turned Trump's pick to head the U.S. Office of Special Counsel, aka the department in charge of ethics enforcement, whistleblower protection, and generally keeping government employees from turning into campaign mascots. The left lit up like a siren, calling him an unqualified extremist with ties to conspiracy theorists, anti-Semitic influencers, and alt-right darlings like Nick Fuentes and Andrew Tate. The right polished his resume, calling him a brilliant legal mind and loyal constitutional scholar who can bring clarity and reform to a bloated bureaucracy, conveniently ignoring the Tate worship and coup commentary. The center did the usual middle child thing. We're not mad, just concerned. Ingracia replaces Hampton Dellinger, who was fired by Trump earlier this year in a legal standoff that's still playing out. But the appointment signals more than just a staffing shift. It's a flashpoint in the war over legitimacy, loyalty, and the crumbling line between public service and podcast fodder. If confirmed, Ingracia will oversee protections for whistleblowers while standing firmly on the foundation of vibes, hot takes, and retrograde ideology. What could go wrong? So to recap, the new ethics watchdog might be ethically questionable. The old one got canned mid-litigation, and somehow Andrew Tate's name is in a federal job description. And if you think that's wild, buckle up, Buttercup, because those weren't even the weirdest headlines this week. Let's rapid fire the rest in a round of quick hits brought to you by sarcasm, suppressed rage, and the slow collapse of nuance. The EPA approved a new oil drilling project off the Louisiana coast because nothing says climate emergency like doubling down on fossil fuels while the Gulf boils like gumbo. Congress quietly slipped a surveillance expansion into the latest farm bill because clearly what agriculture really needed was the legal right to spy on your DMs. A Texas school board banned 14 more books this week, including one about Rosa Parks. At this rate, history class is going to be 90 minutes of vibe and Pledge of Allegiance. A major U.S. airline announced it will start charging passengers to use overhead bins. Don't worry though, optional baggage is still free and heavily encouraged. Florida's new Patriot Education Act went into effect today, requiring students to learn about American exceptionalism, while skipping the whole genocide and slavery part, because nothing says freedom like rewriting the syllabus. Wall Street executives held a closed-door meeting about rising public anger over wealth inequality. We assume the first agenda item was don't look poor. And finally, Chick-fil-A quietly raised prices again. That's right, turns out even Christian chicken isn't immune to corporate greed and inflation. After a news cycle full of men with microphones, money, and way too much ego, let's shift the spotlight to something actually powerful. Women quietly saving the world again. Because while the boys play power games and posture for press, some real grown-ups are out here planting food, feeding communities, and providing once again that care is the most radical act of all. In Detroit, a coalition of women-led climate justice groups took an abandoned lot and turned it into a lush, thriving community food forest. Over 300 fruit and nut trees, herbs, pollinator plants, and vegetables, all plants to nourish their community. Free, public, no walls, no credit checks, just radical care. And let's be clear, these are the same women whose rights are being chipped away across the country. They are watching courtrooms and lawmakers debate their autonomy like it's a poker chip, and instead of folding, they're out here planting orchards and feeding people. While the government writes checks for defense contractors, these women are writing receipts for resilience. While billionaires chase Mars, they're building something sustainable right here on Earth. It's a reminder, you can strip our rights, but you can't strip our power. Now, when women are still showing up with the shovel, seeds, and enough soul to grow a revolution from the ground up. And that's your Saturday SassCast, where the headlines may be absurd, but the clarity is always couture. From Elon's ketamine key party to Biden's book club brawl and a fresh federal appointee who thinks ethics are optional, we've laughed, side-eyed, and barely held it together. But here's your reminder, babe. While chaos makes the headlines, care builds the future. So plant something, feed someone, raise hell with softness. And if you like today's cast, hit follow, drop a comment, and tag your smartest, sassiest friend, because the world doesn't need another hot take. It needs women who know how to read the room and rewrite the rules. Until next time, stay loud, stay kind, and stay politically hydrated. See you tomorrow.